A group of 6 middle schoolers in Massachusetts are facing criminal charges, crimes, for racist and hateful comments they made in a social media group chat, which included not only apparent threats, but a mock slave auction where classmates bid on their black classmates for $2 and $4. This is awful, right? Vile stuff, but it should be dealt with by the school. But should Snapchat messages within a confined group lead to criminal charges? Prosecutor will join us live in a moment. All 6 of the students are being charged with a threat to commit a crime. 2 of them face additional charges of interference with civil rights charges, one of them facing a charge of witness interference. The middle school students are said to be between the ages of 13 and 14 in 8th grade. Some of the students are also currently suspended by their Massachusetts middle school. Not all the parents in the school district agree that the students should be criminally charged.
A middle school parent who says the students' online actions were reprehensible believes charges from the DA are overboard.
They should not be facing criminal charges. You know, they're children themselves.
Joining us now is Anthony Gallooni. He's a district attorney for Hampton County who's bringing the criminal charges against the students. Thanks very much for coming on the program. Appreciate it. So, look, I get why the students would be suspended from school, for example, but explain to us from a legal perspective why you thought that kids who made vile comments in a private group, so it wasn't even said to the people they were talking about, should face criminal indictments.
Well, I'll just refine that little piece. The 2 victims were privy to the conversations. They were invited into the chat and did spend a short amount of time in the chat, so they were exposed to the language. But to answer your principal question, Dan, certain speech is protected by the First Amendment, right? But certain speech is not. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. You can't bully, harass, and use intimidating language towards anyone. And that precisely was the behavior. The racist language is despicable and cruel, there's no question. But one who uses just racist terminology doesn't necessarily commit a crime. That is constitutionally protected, as vile as it is. This situation involved threats and bullying that amounts to criminal violations in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
When you say threats, can you be more specific? I mean, because one of the factors in your state for the threat to commit a crime is that the defendant intended that his or her threat be conveyed to a particular person, and the 4th one is that the defendant made the threat under circumstances which could have reasonably caused the person to whom it was conveyed to fear the defendant had both the intention and ability to carry out the threat. So can you talk to us about the specifics?
Since this is a pending case, there's certain things I can and cannot talk about. But, you know, generally speaking, when one conveys language involving a slave auction, purchasing someone, uses violent imagery, which was also a part of this chat, and obviously we have evidence to that effect, and these individuals, the intended targets who became the victims, were aware of this, we firmly believe that our charges are appropriate and it amounts to a criminal threat.
But you think that they actually had the intention of going and conducting a slave auction?
Well, that's not the crime. I don't know that they intended to conduct a slave auction. They did, the children, place amounts of money for these individuals. But at different times in the conversation, they used violent imagery, they used violent terms, and things that were directed at 2 specific individuals.
Because you know what the response is, right? Look, I haven't seen the exact text, so I obviously have to, I'm at a little bit of a loss here, which is why I'm trying to focus on the law with you. But you know the response generally would be, these are kids, 7th and 8th graders, 8th graders, making dumb, vile, hateful comments that are typically the sort of thing that are dealt with by a school, right? Suspended, expelled, whatever, they learn their lesson. But here, you're feeling that you need to take that extra step and actually threaten to put them behind bars in a juvenile detention center, whatever the case may be.
Listen, detention is an unlikely result. The cases are going to be prosecuted in the juvenile court, which is a closed situation in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. But there were distinguishable crimes committed. There's no question about it. the First Amendment rights of these young people were not violated. They directed specific threats and language that amounted to a crime in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I spoke with the victims and their families at the onset of this situation when we became privy to it. And, you know, that is another side to this. You talk about, is this overreaching? Is this overbroad? When crimes are committed, victims are affected, a community is affected, we have an obligation to act, and that was the basis upon which I made my decision.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.